Welcome back to the OCAD Sports Report. My name is Avishai Sol, and we have had another very busy week in the wide world of sports. But opening back to my own sports life, in which, a part of a bit of a rec basketball league, we play on Sundays, me and a friend. And if you remember, a few weeks back, I was complaining about the skill level of my team. It's always a bit of luck involved when you're trying to find players in leagues like this, and this time around, we got the short end of the stick. However, this past week, we won our first game of the season. How did we do that? Through sheer force of will, skill, grit, and determination. We cheated. We cheated. That's what we did. We cheated. It is a paid-for league, but we brought in a friend of ours who's 6'5" because we were all really short, and that's how we won. We got a lot to talk about this week. Let's get started. First, in some baseball news, the owners and the CBA Players Association have reached an agreement to put an end to the MLB lockout. Basically, the number of games the players will play will stay the same at 162, but the season will start a week later, and they up the minimum salary for players to $700,000. Always good to see conflicts like this resolved. We'll have another lockout in a decade or so, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Next, in some NBA news, San Antonio Spurs coach Greg Popovich is on the verge of becoming the winningest head coach in NBA history. The Spurs played the Raptors this past week, with the Raptors defeating the Spurs, holding off Popovich's impending coronation as Lord head coach of the NBA. He'll break that record soon, but not against us. In some other NBA news, Ben Simmons returned to Philadelphia, now as part of the Brooklyn Nets. He did not play a minute in that game, still sidelined with whatever weird injury he's got. But more importantly was his reception from the Philadelphia fans. As we know, Philadelphians are proud of their nature as welcoming and quiet and kind people who welcome back athletes who may have spurned them with open arms and open minds.
Got the shirt, certified thick kid shirts, bro. Awesome. Yes, sir. Here you go, $20, bro.
No. Next, in some football news, that's American football, NFL news. Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers re-signs with his team for the largest extension in football history. That is a 4-year, $200 million extension. Blows your mind a little bit to think about the amount of money these top-tier athletes, particularly quarterbacks, are garnering these days. But then again, the best quarterbacks in the world, they can get paid whatever they want. They're so singularly important. There isn't really a situation like this in other sports where a single position is so much more important than the rest. Maybe pitchers, but even still, Rodgers has had some weird bristling against the exact number being thrown around, but nevertheless, it is a huge deal. Some other football news. Quarterback Russell Wilson of the Seahawks has been traded to the Broncos. Russell Wilson, at 33 years old, been for years one of the most talented players who's never really had a shot at greatness. Good to see him back with a team that can contend for a Super Bowl. Now in some WNBA news, and this will get slightly political for a second. As we all know, the climate in the Ukraine and Russia is as tense as ever. But where that bleeds into sports is in the WNBA's star Brittney Griner, who during the WNBA offseason plays for a team in that part of the world. Griner has since been detained in Russia on trumped-up charges. It's totally illegit. The WNBA and NBA simultaneously have been screaming for Griner's release. Hopefully we'll see that happen soon. It's really ridiculous and just more fuel to the fire of anti-Russian sentiment. Next, in some boxing news, heavyweight champion Tyson Fury is set to defend his heavyweight title against Dillian Whyte. There's already been some trash talking going on, with Fury predicting a quick knockout against Whyte. To be honest, it probably will be. But some big news in golf. One name in the history of golf stands apart from all the rest, and that is, of course, Tiger Woods. He's retired a couple times, he's taken some time off from golf, but now in the twilight of his career, it seems that we may have to say goodbye to Tiger for good, as he is being inducted into the Golfing Hall of Fame. Never has there been a more deserving member in the hall, of any hall. You think about the way he stands out as a singular force in his sport. Nobody has done that to the degree that he has. Leaps and bounds above the next name in his field. But as we move into March, we have one big thing on all of our minds, which is March Madness, the NCAA basketball tournament. We have some great teams coming up and some great NBA prospects playing on those teams. I'm going to tell you about a few of them today. First, we have Gonzaga with NBA lottery prospect Chet Holmgren and early second round prospect Drew Timme. You may remember Timme from last year as he reached the finals. Timme has returned for another year alongside Chet Holmgren. Holmgren, 7 foot long, skinny, but with guard skills and can shoot. Timme, more of an old school big man and leads the NCAA in best handlebar mustache points. Another notable team that could contend in the tournament is Purdue, featuring lottery prospect Jaden Ivey, a dynamic scoring guard who can do a little bit of everything out there, great size, great athlete, and Canadian Torontonian Zach Edey. One thing comes to mind when it comes to Edey, and that is size. Standing 7'4" and weighing 285 pounds, Zach Edey isn't really fast, but he's got great fundamentals in the low post. He's obviously enormous and weirdly really soft hands. His drop steps are an impossible move to defend, and he hits his free throws, which is big. Next, we always have to mention Duke. This year they bring a few guys to the table, most notably Paolo Banchero, who's a really sound fundamental forward. I love him in the draft. He's my personal #1 pick, even though he's been falling slightly in mock boards. He's too polished to pass up. Next, we have Kentucky, who features a 2-guard combo of Ty Washington and Canadian Shadon Sharp. Shadon Sharp, more of a longer, rangier, versatile guard, and Ty Washington brings that speed and playmaking on the perimeter. And finally, we got to talk about Auburn, who features a 1-2 combo of Walker Kessler and Jabari Smith. Jabari Smith has skyrocketed to a lot of NBA mock boards, some people putting him as high as #1. Super athlete with guard skills at 6'8" and a killer three-point jumper. Jabari Smith may be a shoo-in for the #1 pick as of now. But recently I've been talking to my friends about all this March Madness stuff, the betting that goes on, the fandom, the obsessive nature of just diving into college sports all at once in this 1 month, and of course the do-or-die nature of the one game knockout. It's a great way to find entertaining basketball, especially if you're not a round-the-clock fan of college sports and you can just dive in for this 1 month. It's a great thing, but it also raises the question around all the money involved. There is a lot of money involved in March Madness, whether it's ads, it's gambling, it's sponsorships, it's shoe deals, anything. Which raises moral questions about the way money plays into student athletes. In a nutshell, there's 2 stances to this problem. One is that if a school is profiting off of the skills of its students, those students deserve to be compensated financially. The other side says that student athletes are students, not professionals, and that even though there's money trickling into the institutions they play for, money that is directly attributed to those students playing for those schools, that it violates the ethics of a student athlete to be paid for their services. Now, I'm not going to say what I think is the right of the two, but I'm just going to give some more information. On this side, you should pay a student athlete because they're earning money for the school, right? It's just simple. They provide a service, they should be paid for it. Also, these athletes, every time they step on the floor, whether it's practice or games, they are risking injury. Their bodies are their livelihood, and they're putting them on the line for their school. If a lottery prospect gets injured, and that affects the salary they can demand at the next level, at the professional level, they're sacrificing money for their school. They have a lot riding on their athletic career, and to not have any sort of income flowing in at the collegiate level is just throwing money away. On the other hand, there are professional leagues open to players of a student age. If they don't want to play for college and don't want to get a degree, and this is becoming increasingly popular, particularly among the NBA. We see players like LaMelo Ball traveling overseas. We see players joining the G League Ignite, which is the youth team that plays in the NBA's G League. We're seeing players forego the college option to pursue lesser professional leagues. They get paid, and arguably, the competition can be even stronger against professionals, grown men, rather than other students. The benefits to a college experience for a student athlete is the same as any other student attending. They get a degree, they get an education, and they get the camaraderie of the college experience, which is unmatched even among professional teams and professional leagues. There are strengths and weaknesses, positives and negatives, benefits and not so benefits to both sides. Which takes us to this week's final segment, which is Athlete of the Week. This week's Athlete of the Week, long awaited, is my dad. He's Pa to some, that's to me. He's Adam Saul to others. He's Professor Saul to fewer, and he's Dr. Saul to even fewer, because he is a doctorate of something. Why is he this week's Athlete of the Week? Because for the first time since COVID, he and his old friends are coming back to their pickup basketball games on Sunday. For years, since basically I was a baby, he's been playing with this same group of guys, and it's great. It's great. With COVID, that had to stop. But now they're returning, and it's gonna be hilarious because it's the difference between being 47 and playing basketball and then taking 2.5 years. Now you're closer to 50 and you haven't played sports in all that time. It's gonna be a little painful to watch, but kudos to my dad for going out and doing it anyway. This has been the OCAD Youth Sports Report. My name is Avishai Sol, and I will see you all next week.